I don't know about you, but I find our creative energy so fascinating how sometimes I can be bubbling over with all the creative ideas, and then other days it feels like I'm pulling from a blank canvas. So, good thing I've gotten a lot better at taking notes and writing down ideas so that when I have days where my creativity feels a little bit lower, it's really easy for me to pull from something that I had already generated. And that's what we're doing today. I'm really excited about this. So, at the end of the month, inside my signature group coaching program, Elevate, I am hosting a workshop on messaging. And this is exciting for me because this is a little bit outside my box. While I've always known I'm really good at messaging, and we do a lot of work on my one-to-one calls with my students on customized messaging ideas, like coming up with their rock star statement or their tagline or whatever it might be. I've never actually taken my own way of viewing the messaging process and turned it into anything. So this is really good for me, right? To kind of continue to push myself outside of my comfort zone and say, hey, I know that I have a process that I follow. Let's pull it out of my brain and put it to paper and share it with my students. So I'm excited for that. And part of messaging is pricing. That's like one piece of messaging. And I wrote this down just in a surge of creativity recently of my own unique process when I come up with my pricing, because obviously pricing is a hot topic. And I work with my students on a regular basis on their pricing. And, I've been doing this for a long time, even since it was just photography in the picture. So that's what I'm going to share with you today is my unique 4-step process for coming up with the perfect pricing. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson. I help creative business owners and artists build communities around your brand so that business is easy and profitable. When you stay in action, yes, I mean even messy action, only good things happen. We are always learning, and when we can get just as excited about the lessons as the results, magic happens. I've helped million-dollar companies with their marketing, but my mission in this world is to help you step into the best possible version of yourself so you can create your dream business too. We believe in community and people over strategies and tactics. Our theme here at the Messy Success Podcast is the 1% adventure, where we're focusing on getting 1% better every single day. I want you to color outside the lines and embrace the messy journey to take daily action towards your goals. If you've noticed a plateau in your business, we've created a very quick quiz where you can find out your next best move. Head over to elizabethhenson.co/next to find out. Now let's get started. All right, so we're going to be breaking down my 4-step process to creating pricing inside your business. And this comes from a little bit of logic, a lot of inner knowing, and trying to put that together into something that you can actually formulate on your own. And like I said, this is really fun, and listen to it, have fun with it. Feel free to make it your own, see what lands, let me know. And remember that this is just one tiny piece of a special workshop I have coming up inside Elevate. And if you're interested in finding out more about joining my group program, you can go to elizabethhenson.co/elevate, and you can get on the priority list or set up a call with me to learn more. But we only open the doors to the public twice a year. Otherwise, you have to kind of sign up at that link and set up a time to chit chat with me and see if the program is right for you. But it's a wonderful program. And I used this exact pricing method to come up with the price for my signature program. And this has been the easiest thing to sell since I have really leaned into any kind of coaching, mentoring, whatever you want to call it. This has been the coolest and best offer. And I use this process. So let's talk about it a little bit and how pricing relates to your messaging. So selling, when we are selling something, when we're using messaging specifically to sell, there's a frequency there. There's a vibrational energy that we bring to the table. And something I tell my students all the time is you need to be a 10 out of 10, meaning you need to believe in your offer and your price at a 10 out of 10 level of confidence in order for it to have that highest frequency, that magnetic energy, so that people are saying heck yes before you've even fully explained it. And this happens with Elevate all the time, where people are a heck yes before they've even really seen the deliverables. They've heard about it from someone else. They have met me somewhere and just said, I want to work with you. That magnetic energy, okay? That magnetic energy comes from what I call being a 10 out of 10 on your offer, on your pricing, on your absolute love and obsession with the work that you do, all of these things. And that you bring that to the table in your selling energy. And if you're only an 8 out of 10, you're going to wonder why nobody's buying your offer. And it could be a great offer. But if you only believe in it with 8 out of 10 energy, then that's what other people are going to bring to the table as well. So this is really important. And part of being that 10 out of 10 is having a pricing structure or price point that you are so comfortable and confident with. Okay. So let's talk about these 4 phases that I go through. Okay. When I'm coming up with a new offer and I'm setting the price. The first thing that I do is I consider my hourly rate. Now, I know a lot of coaches are kind of anti-hourly, and this does not mean that you are charging the client hourly. There's a difference. But as a CEO, as a business owner, you should have a rough idea of what your hourly rate is. Meaning, if you were to just take a strategy call, a coaching call for whatever you're the expert at, what would you want to charge for an hour of your time? Now, even the hourly rate, there's a lot of things that we want to consider. You want to take your desired gross revenue, okay? So let's just say you really want to make $100,000 a year. All right, so you take your gross revenue, the amount that you want to make, okay, before you pay yourself, before you take out any expenses, any of that stuff. And then you can divide that number by 52 for 52 weeks in a year. And then you divide that number by how many hours you want to work. So just for easy math, I did $100,000 a year divided by 52 weeks in the year, divided by 30 hours in a week. And that's about $65 an hour. Now, I always say for these 1 hour, this hourly rate, you want to double that number. Okay, so if 65 is your number, you want to double that. And that's about $128 an hour. That's great, okay? And the reason we double that is because when you're a business owner, it costs a lot of money to run your business. So you want to pay yourself essentially for the time before the meeting, the time after the meeting, and knowing that we have a lot of costs and expenses that come out of our business. So that's just some rough math. I like to look at it as a range. You know, for me, my one-off Zoom calls are anywhere from $250 an hour or to $450 an hour. And I have a range. And as long as I'm within that range, I know that I'm profitable. And that's why we want to come up with this hourly rate that is like your bottom line. So for this person who now we've said their hourly rate is around $128, I would say, okay, so you don't say yes to anything that is less than that hourly rate. And it gives us that bottom line, that starting point. Now, obviously, this is a new offer. So that's why we're aiming on the low end when we're coming up with a new offer. But once you've been doing something for a long time, you'll notice that you can work less hard to make more. But in the beginning, we're going to work harder to make less as we test out our offers and get proof of concept and all that stuff. Okay. This is just my methodology. I know a lot of people out there are like, charge more, charge more, charge more. But I really believe in knowing your minimum viable number to put food on the table and keep your business running so that you always know what that bottom line is. So you're never actually making less than you need to make. And you can only go up and make more from there. And this has worked for me for over a decade. Okay. So that hourly rate is something that comes into play. And for me, that just means for this person, we would not dip under $128 an hour. Okay. We just wouldn't go under that. Now there's some like other circumstances. If you're doing contracting for someone else where you don't have to do any of the marketing or the extra work, sometimes there's opportunity there to charge a little bit less because there's not as much coming out of it. There's a lot of other factors that play here, but this is just one of the things that I look at. Okay. So that hourly rate. Now, the second thing that we're going to look at is your energy. How much energy is it going to take you to deliver on this? And this is why I love using the example of just a one-off 1 hour Zoom call, coaching someone, helping someone, mentoring them on whatever it is that you're the expert at. Okay. So that energy is pretty easy to measure. If someone just says, can I pick your brain? And all you have to do is show up on Zoom and then be done in an hour. You don't have to do anything before the meeting or after the meeting. You have a pretty good idea of like energetically what that's going to need from you. Now, if you're doing something where you have to prepare. So like giving a presentation, takes more preparation than a simple one-off Zoom call. So when you're giving a presentation, your energy that you're predicting is going to be like, okay, now I've got to either create the slides or tweak slides if it's an old presentation that can be repurposed, and make sure that the slides look good, make sure that I've gone over them enough times that I feel comfortable delivering on the slides. Do I have to pre-record and deliver something? There's a lot of things that we're looking at on the energy side of things. So how much energy is this offer going to take you? Is it minimum energy? I like to think of a sliding scale for this. If it's a 0 to 10, is it a 2 out of 10? Is it a 10 out of 10? That's going to play a factor in your pricing. Okay. Now we want to look at the actual deliverable, meaning what is the value of what they're going to walk away with? And this is where coaches and mentors or strategists or consultants can charge so much because they're basing the value on what the client is walking away with. So let's use my program, for example. Elevate is $375 a month if someone's on the monthly payment plan. For me, that deliverable, the deliverable that they're getting, I can help them make $30K a year. If they're at zero, okay? If someone comes to me and says, I want to start a business, I'm at ground zero, for that $4,500 investment to work with me for an entire year, I feel 10 out of 10 confident that if they show up and do the work, they will walk away after they worked with me and be making at least $30K. All right. Now, if they come to me and they're already making $60K or $100K, then I feel, equally comfortable that we can move that bar up 30% or even 3 times. It doesn't, that's really, the sky is the limit, right? There's an infinite amount of value that someone can get from working with me. But for simple math, the way I look at it is I don't have any clients that make less than 30K after working with me. So that $4,500 price point is like such a no-brainer for the value, the deliverable that they're getting. Okay. Now, notice I'm using the deliverable in the form of value. What are they walking away with? How much is that worth? If you're helping someone, say you're helping them create a sales page, what's the possible amount of revenue that they're going to generate from that sales page that you're helping them build, right? This is where the price increase really comes from, is the value of the deliverable. Okay. So you're taking into account your hourly rate is your starting point, the amount of energy that it's going to take you, the deliverable, the value of the deliverable that they are getting, and what does that look like if you were to give it a numerical value of like before and after. Okay. And then the fourth one, my favorite, this is simply your intuition. And this is what I like to do last. Sometimes I like to do it first and last. So if I'm creating a new offer, let's say I'm going to charge for this messaging workshop coming up. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm just going to think of a number. $297 is what popped up. Okay. So then I'm going to look at the hourly rate. Does this meet my minimum hourly rate? Energetically, the amount of work that I'm having to put out, does that match the price point at $297? I would go ahead in my mind and be like, okay, I need at least 2 people for that to really match on an energetic realm. And then the deliverable that they're getting, is it worth more than $297? And I'm like, well, heck yes, because this messaging methodology, they'll be able to use over and over and over again to create an abundance of revenue. So yes, abso-freaking-lutely. And then my intuition, do I feel good about the $297? And that's where I would say, yes, that feels really good for me on the receiving end, as long as I get at least 2 people to pay for the workshop. And then if I'm the client side of things, what I'm getting back for the $297 feels really good. Okay. And that's how my brain works. As a much less logical thinker and more of a intuitive thinker, I'm not pulling prices out of thin air. There is a methodology to it of knowing that, am I reaching my minimum hourly rate? What's the amount of energy that I'm putting out? Does it have me 10 out of 10 excited and confident to deliver it when I'm thinking about that energy? Now, the value of the deliverable that they're getting, does it exceed that price point? In fact, we want it to like 10x. Okay. So when I say anybody that works with me in my group coaching program, if they're going to spend $4,000 or $4,500, but they're going to walk away with that 30K increase, that is quite a bit. What's the math on that? 30. So we have almost 7x'd their investment, because I feel 10 out of 10 confident that anyone that works with me will make at least $30,000 more than they're making right now. We'll put it that way. Most of the time, my students will tell you the value is even more than that. But for me, if I really distill this down, I can look at that offer in the face and be like, hell yes, I can deliver on that, right? I tell everyone that $375 a month is so intentional, because I can help anybody make $375 a month, right? That I can bring to the table, that 10 out of 10 confident energy. And that's what we're talking about at the beginning of this episode. That 10 out of 10 confidence is a vibrational frequency. And that's why it's so easy for me to say, you will not find a business coach that is better than me, that is more affordable than me. You just won't. Like, I can say that with 10 out of 10 certainty, because I've gone through this process. I know I can deliver on the result. I have proof of concept with, the 18 students that have been in my program or are in my program. And I know that it works with that 10 out of 10 certainty. I have people coming to me all the time saying you should charge more. And that, my friends, is a good sign. And I would not charge more because you want people to say, oh my gosh, this is a steal. This is a no-brainer offer. That's how selling becomes easy. And the key is that it is scalable for you. So my program is scalable for me, meaning I can have more students every month, and I'm doing pretty darn close to the same amount of work. Where we don't want is you have an offer that is not scalable, meaning say I could only take a max of 4 students a month. Now I'm putting a ceiling on the amount that I can grow and the amount of people that I can help. So the scalability is the key. And when I was talking about pricing my messaging workshop, let's pretend I'm pricing that at $297. You noticed my brain went to, okay, I need at least 2 students for this to really hit that, the amount of money that I want to make for my energy exchange, right? And let's play with this and see how we could be screwing up this formula. Okay. The first way to screw up this formula is your hourly rate is too low. And now you're actually in a deficit because you didn't charge enough for the amount of actual hours you're putting in. Okay. So if you walk away from a project and let's say you had to rent a space for $350 and you charged $100 a head and you got 3 people, and now you're in a deficit, not just for your time and energy, but for your actual amount of money. Okay. So that means that you kind of screwed up on what you needed to make from an hourly rate standpoint for that event. Okay. So that's where you can mess up number 1. You can mess up number 2 in estimating the amount of energy that something is going to take. So let's say that you set up an hour Zoom call and you did not think about the fact that you promised this person they're going to walk away with a customized blueprint that you're going to put together for them after the call. And let's say you only charge them for the 1 hour call, and now you've got to put in 3 hours of work after the call of your energy so that you can deliver to them what you promised. And now you're like resenting and you're cranky and you're grumpy that you're doing way more work than you anticipated. Okay. That's where you really want to have a good pulse on the amount of energy that something is going to take you. And you'll start noticing that you're getting better at this when it's easier to say no to things. Like, when I get people that request me to speak or be in their summit, it's really easy for me to look at all the pieces and say, is this worth my energy? Am I going to get a return, an ROI on my energy for this project? Because energy exchanges are just as powerful as financial exchanges. Financial exchanges are simply energetic exchanges. But you have to be really good at estimating how much energy something is going to take. And you'll know you've missed the mark if you're cranky or annoyed about the amount of work that you're putting in. You want it to feel like you are winning, a gold star, or you're winning the lottery because you're making a really fair energy exchange for the amount of money that you're putting in. Okay, now let's talk about the deliverables, the value of the deliverable. How do we screw that up? We know we've screwed that up when a client says, I worked with you for 2 hours and I'm just not seeing the value. Or can I have my money back for your course? I didn't get out of it what I thought I was going to get out of it. Okay, so if you're seeing unhappy clients or your clients seem to be coming back because they didn't get what they expected, that means the value of your deliverable is not matching the price tag that you put on it. Now, again, there's gray area here because price is subjective and value is subjective. And if 2 students out of 100 come to you and say they didn't get the value, okay, that's not a really significant amount. But if a lot of your students are coming back saying that, you might want to reevaluate and, listen to them and value the feedback that you're getting. But for the most part, you want to know that you can deliver on it, right? And that you have some type of way of measuring whether they've at least put in the work. Now, sometimes people are going to come to you and ask for their money back and they didn't do the work. Okay, that's different. But if all measurements are agreed upon and you can deliver the outcome, okay, then you'll know you're meeting that. But if you're constantly having cranky clients that are not getting the value, that might be something that you can look at, okay? And then the intuitive piece. This is going to come from experience, but you want to be able to look at all of these things together and then intuitively, does this feel like a good price? Okay? Or does it kind of feel like, I'm getting away with something by charging this much? Does it feel in integrity? Does it feel good? Do you feel like the person is walking away, feeling like they've won? You just want to trust your intuition on all those pieces. So that's the 4-step formula: the hourly rate, the energy it's going to take you, the value of the deliverable, and your intuition. And then as you continue to go, when you start an offer, you want to start it at the lowest price point that is still profitable for you. Let's be clear. We want this to be profitable for you. Now, the longer you're selling this same thing, you want to pay attention to supply and demand. So this is where that scalability comes back into play. Okay. I know my Elevate price is amazing because I have the supply and demand to prove that it sells, and it sells at a really healthy conversion rate. This was a great formula to use when I was doing photography because every 3 to 5 sessions that I would take, I'm improving. That supply and demand is consistent. I don't want to stay the same. I want to continue to make more. So every 3 to 5 sessions booked, I would raise my prices. Okay. That is very normal and acceptable in the service-based industries like photography. Now, when it comes to my coaching, I focus on the scalability rather than increasing the price. So can I add more students without me doing a bunch more work? Can we focus on the supply and demand in that way? But do we have the supply and demand to justify where the prices are? And can I continue to make more the more people I help? So there's, 2 different ways to look at that. With photography, I was always trading my time for money. There wasn't as much of a scalability piece there, meaning I can't shoot 6 weddings on the same weekend. Now I could because I had a team, but the numbers behind that scalability, that supply and demand, were not quite what I wanted them to be. So I kind of went back to, okay, if I'm going to continue doing photography and it's just me, the only way to continue with that supply and demand is to raise prices. Okay. Whereas with my coaching business, I don't have to raise prices. I can help more people. Does that make sense? So supply and demand is a really important part as you continue to grow, as you continue to want to make more money. You want to make sure that your product, your service is flying off the shelf before you either scale it or raise the price. Okay, I hope that was helpful. If you can really master using those 4 things when you create a price, that's going to help you show up with that 10 out of 10 energy when you go to sell it. Because remember, selling is a vibrational frequency, and you want to bring that 10 out of 10 certainty to everything when you are selling, to your messaging, to your in-person communication, to your social media content, whatever it might be, right? You want to be able to look at it in the mirror and say, heck yes, I know for a fact you will not get a better deal than this because X, Y, Z, or whatever it might be. Okay. This was fun. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so excited to start bringing on a few more guests over the next month or 2 as we prepare for our in-person event. And If this was helpful, please, please, please leave us a review, share it with a friend, reach out to me on the Instagram, elizabeth.henson. And don't forget, if you are interested in my signature program, it is at elizabethhenson.co/elevate and sign up to be on our priority list. Okay, guys, have a good week.